as everybody knows, he's an amazing farrier. He's a journeyman. He's got his AW. He's a graduate diplomat of the Royal College. But he does all these expensive horses. He's a great 3-day eventer. He's done clinics all over the world. But I want to know, who knows that this is the world's fastest mule shoer right here in 2008? 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Most people can barely finish one in that time. I think that's pretty awesome. So I give you Tim Shannon.
Thank you. All right. Farrier gets a call. Hello? Hey, are you the horse shoer? Yeah, I shoe horses. Well, how much do you charge? $100. Well, I need you to come out and get a horse done for me. Well, where are you located? I'm out on 1234 Rural Road, 80. Okay, let me check my calendar. I can probably get out there on Wednesday afternoon. No, that's not going to work. I got grandkids coming out this weekend and I'd really like to get a horse shot tomorrow. Well, let me look at my calendar and yeah, I might be able to make a change. Oh, that'd be great. I'd love to see you tomorrow. We'll see you in the afternoon. Wow, what happened there? I was trying to get that schedule square. I got stuff going Friday, but I got a new customer. That's good. I got a new customer. I'll figure it out. Farrier goes out to the barn, shows up, drives in, unpacks, meets the owner, and owner has a halter and says, "Yeah, nice to meet you. Horse is out in the pasture, and we usually put pads on this horse. Gets a little sore, so go ahead and just ride out there." So Farrier's heading out there, thinking, "Man, pads! I can make a little extra money on this gig." Gonna throw those on. Grabs the horse. Horse comes in just fine. Good manners. Ties it up, gets it done, finishes cleaning up, and owner comes back out, gets paid, gets a check. Farrier heads to the local check cashing store, gets a check cash, goes home, grabs his wife, goes out to dinner. It's a good day. Love this life. I'm a horseshoer. So, as you can imagine, that farrier was me a long time ago. I had a lot of skills, but no real idea about the scope of the business and how to manage the business. And I've come a long way in 35 years, but the thing is, I should have had access to this knowledge 25 years ago. Young farriers should be building on what we experienced farriers already know. Imagine how far a young farrier could go starting out with the knowledge I have at this point. And this isn't just new farriers receiving information. New farriers trying to go out and get information. I mean, you come out of school, you're encouraged to get an apprenticeship and go get the information. This is all also about experienced farriers actively going out and looking for younger farriers to teach. It works both ways. Farriers with time in the business shouldn't just wait for a knock on the door. We need to also get out there and help these new farriers. This all came to me years ago. I was at the Hoof Care Summit and was listening to a talk from Jeffrey Thomason and University of Guelph. He was returning some research. I don't remember what the research was, but he put up a picture. It was a painting from hundreds of years ago of a farrier working on a horse. And he asked the audience, a bunch of horseshoers, "How would you like to go back in time and talk to that guy and see what you had in common?" And everybody's like, "Oh yeah." And then he said, "How many vets do you think could go back a few hundred years and have anything in common with a vet?" And we're like, "Oh, probably none." So why is that? And that's because we're not successfully building on the knowledge of people with experience in this business. We need to start doing that and building on the shoulders of others. So, why the modern professional farrier? Why did I come up with this term? A few reasons. We're not seen as professionals, and we can't be seen as professionals until we define ourselves. We have a whole range of skills. When someone calls up a farrier, they don't know what the baseline knowledge is going to be. They don't know how long they've been out of school, how long they've been in practice, what their baseline of skill set is. I just had a call this week. Somebody called up, wanted me to come out and work on their horses, and they wanted to come out and watch my work first. They said, well, where are you at? We'll come out and meet you and see what you do. That's what it's like out in the world. They don't know. Now, I have the skills to successfully, shoe a horse and run a practice, but they don't know that. And we need to educate the public that way. We need to set those expectations. And until we do, it's hard to be seen as a professional. The next thing is information parity. Information parity is this concept that the public, two sides of an equation have the same information. That's information parity, it's shared. When I started in the business, there was no internet. And what I learned in school and out of textbooks and went to clinics and learned, that's how we got our information. Now, we weren't being overtly secret about our knowledge. It was just hard to go out and get. You had to really want to be a horseshoer and really want our information to go get it. Now, everybody's got it on their phone. They can search anything, and they have this access to the same information that we have as horseshoers. And that's information parity. The good news is we have the wisdom that comes from years of practice, collaboration, and practical application to argue that point. And that's what we need to do, is we need to take that wisdom and experience and have conversations with these people and to explain this knowledge that they get out on the internet. We have the ability now to separate current evidence-based practice from mythology, trends, and incomplete internet assumptions, which is what the public gets. And we need to have good conversations with these people, not just tell them, oh, you're an idiot, oh, you don't know how that works. We need to have a reasoned discussion about that, because that's what a professional does. Third reason is all the new products on the market. We need to keep up with those products. We need to be knowledgeable about those products. We need to be knowledgeable in their use, and if we can't use them ourselves, we have to have a network of people that can apply and use those products. And again, this comes down to information parity. Consumers and vets know about these products. These vendors that are going to be here in the trade show this afternoon, they're also marketing those products to vets, and they are marketing to consumers. So those questions are going to come in. Don't think they're not. And we need to have a well-reasoned, educated argument when we talk to people about our discussion. The fourth thing is research, technology, and new application. Along with all these modern materials comes new application and ways to do things. Research has been going up. We're learning more about the horse. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So, to separate science from anecdotal information. So, these four things are things that keep us from being a professional. I think we need to look at all those things and how we can incorporate them into our practice. So what I've done for the modern professional farrier is compartmentalized it into 6 different areas of farrier knowledge. We have our primary skill set, which is our evaluation, trim, build a shoe, nail, and apply safely. We have professional development, which is access to all the information out there. It's all the associations, clinics, and ways to take these primary skills and build them up. We have veterinary knowledge. Veterinary knowledge we need to have access to it, and we need to know what it's about, because vets have information that help us do our job better. We would be remiss not to have that information, not have access to it, and not know how to use it. Modern materials, I talked about that a little bit. We need to know what that is. And in purposes of my discussion, what I'm defining as modern materials are anything that's not steel. We have a traditional steel and all the forging you can do and the modification you can make with steel, and then there's all the other stuff. Business development. How do we run the business? How do we make a profit? We need to know how this works. And professional communication, that's what ties us together. We're always talking to people in this business. Sure, we're making horseshoes, sure, we're working on horses, but we're talking, well, first to our teachers, and then mentors, and then to clients, and then vets, and our accountant, and other farriers. Communication is a big part of this. So the way I think about this is we have 6 jars, and these jars have the nuts and bolts of how these different areas work. And we need to get to fill all these up. Because imagine what it would be like to know how to build a beautiful heart bar, but you need to understand, we can apply and have better results with information from a vet. If we know how to read radiographs, how to apply that, we get a better response. What if we see a horse that we know needs a rolled toe or a lateral brake or something, but we don't know how to make the shoe? We got to do that. We got to be able to make these modifications. A glue-on what? I don't know how to do glue-ons. I'll just let that go. You have to know how to do that as well. And then what about making a profit? I mean, we talk about pricing. I hear a lot of conversations here. What do you charge? What do you charge? How do you charge? Well, that's incorporated in the price. But for everything that we come up with and how we do our pricing, it all comes out in what's called the bottom line in a profit and loss report. You know how to read that. You know how to make your business profitable. So what we need is, look at this, is a minimal, functional, and comprehensive amount of nuts and bolts in these jars. And minimal is just realizing there is a jar and that we need to fill this area. This is something, business development or modern materials, that needs to be taken care of. When we get to a functional amount, we know what the jar is, we know what we have to fill it with, but we might not be able to do it all at this point. But we know it's out there, we know we need to get it done. And then comprehensive, which is the jar is full enough that we know what needs to be done in each one, and we have the skills to pull it off. So let's look at our first jar, the primary skills. I went to school way back in 1987. I had 12 horses of my own, and I thought, I can do this. I'm tired of paying a farrier to do this. So I went to Cal Poly Pomona. It was an 8-week course, and it was only 3 days a week. But I went, had another job, was working swings just to get there and do it. But I got through that, I got a start. And it's a good way to go, the schools are good. And it got me out there. So, primary skills, what I'm really talking about here, like I said before, I just kind of skirted the surface, but it's evaluation of the horse. How you watch the horse and look at the foot and determine what your trim plane is going to be. And then it's trimming, using the tools. Your primary skills are learning how to use nippers, grasp easily, cleaning the foot, and then building a shoe. You determine the shoe, you're either going to modify one or you're going to build one, and then you nail it and apply it safely and securely. Those are the primary skills. They seem superficial at first, but they're all quite in-depth. I mean, we're going to see some live shoeing here. Can you imagine the process some of these competitors do in just the flinching? You know, that takes a lot. It's not just about bending over a nail. There's a lot involved with that. And all these things can be very deep, some deeper than others. We've had some talks here on looking at conformation and static and dynamic balance, right? And trimming. And look what's all involved with that, and how to get the horse to move, and all these different ideas about it. There's a lot of depth there and a lot of thinking involved. So these are the primary schools. And I think anybody that's been in the business any amount of time will say, school was never enough time. But you know, that's not the fault of the school. This is a practice. This takes a lot of time and a lot of commitment to get good at. So what schools do for us is they give us an introduction to the tools, and they teach us the language. We have a whole language that we use amongst ourselves, and get you practice and get you an idea of how to look at a horse and some safety, and get you out on the road. So all our stories are different. We've come to this place through either schools or apprenticeship or just picked up some tools and got to work. But we're all the same. We're trying to do the same thing. All these primary skills are the same. So we've got one jar started. Let's look at professional development. So I was out a couple years, shoeing horses. And I'd gone to my supply store, and Lee Green's the shoeing shop, and he said, hey, why don't you come by this weekend? We're having a clinic. And I was like, okay, clinic. I've never been to a clinic before. How do I do this? And so it was on Saturday, so I went by. And I'd never been to one, so I was kind of nervous. So I drive up to the supply store, and I don't even turn in. I just park on the street because I was a little nervous about this. And I walked up the driveway. I got my hands in my pockets because I'm not sure what I'm about to see, what's going on. And I come up on a truck, and first truck I see, this guy's cracking a toe on a shoe. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And as I go farther into the shop, parking lot area, I see these other rigs out there, and they're all working on shoes. And they're all having a good time, and they're laughing, and they're having fun. I'm like, what is this? This is pretty cool. I gotta get in on this. So I sat there and watched the one guy finish up his shoe. And it was a plain stamp, but it was gorgeous to me. I hadn't seen anything like that ever, I don't think. Not in my time in the business. And it certainly wasn't that hammer crap I'd done back in school a couple years ago, and hadn't done since. So I'm like, this is good, I'm on board. And when, watched those guys all day, bought my first bar stock shoe that day, and started to get to work. Turns out, this was being put on by the Western States Farrier Association, part of the AFA. So I joined the association and started going to clinics and learning. So, after years of test, fail, repeat, practice, clinic, test, fail, repeat, over and over, like we all do, I finally got my CJF. 1987 went to school, 89 was full-time, 94 got my CJF and won my first contest. And I was a stud. I was doing well, I was ready to show the world my stuff. Thought I had another jar filled. Then I met the vets. What's up with this? These guys got limited training, right? Back then when I started meeting vets, I think the story was, oh, they only get like 2 or 3 weeks training in school. Now I think I heard it's down to a couple hours. That's all I get. So, what can they do for me? What do they really bring to the table? So, my first in-depth time working with a vet was on laminitis. And I had to see the horse every 6 weeks. The vet was there because it needed to be sedated. So, was sedated, radiographs every 2 or 3 cycles. And these latest radiographs, I was noticing some space in the left front lateral wall. Took a radiograph, and it was there was a big gas pocket, it was open, there was what we call today probably white line disease. But it needed to be taken out, and I didn't know what to do. I'm looking at this, I'm like, I think this is above my pay grade. And that's what I told the vet. I said, I think I've reached the limits of my knowledge here. What I need is you need to bring somebody else in. I would just ask that you let me know when that is so I can come by and see what's going on. So she brings her personal farrier in. Turns out it was John Gordon, past president of the AFA, past president of Western States Farrier Association. And all I knew was John. John's coming in to shoe a horse. And he came in, talked to the vet, looked at the radiographs, and came up with the shoeing plan and applied it. And it was great. This horse was laminitic. I had it in heart bars and rocker toes. It was really bow-legged. Knees were way out. And so he puts on this shoe, got a huge lateral extension. He's resected the wall. He's put I think it was a 1/4x1 piece of steel on that lateral side up above where the resection was, drilled some holes, put some screws in, and the horse loved it. The foot was treated, and it was working. And they got done, and I asked him, I said, John, that's amazing what you did, but I got a couple questions. One is, I was kind of thinking about that, but I wasn't sure if I could do that or not. And he said, here's how the business works, is you go to school, you learn from the different textbooks, you learn what the instructor's teaching you, and you learn from clinics and other farriers. And, what he did, I hadn't seen it in any textbook, and I kept Butler's P2 in my book, in my truck for years, and it was one of those things where If a horse had a problem, I'd tell the client, yeah, I'm gonna go get a drink of water in the truck, when they're, okay, come back, yeah, I know how to do that, I got that covered. And then that's where I was. But what he said is you reach a point where you pull information from all these areas, you look at what you're presented with, get the information from the vet, and you create something to help this horse, based on your knowledge of biomechanics, based on your skill set, based on your tools. And you come up with something, and you solve the problem at the time. And that's what the art of shoeing is. And this was a turning point in my career, big turning point. Really changed my direction and the way I thought about the whole business. So John and the vet worked together, using the tools at hand to satisfy the biomechanical needs of the horse. And that's what we do. Promise I'm only going to read one slide. This is it. Our expectations and understanding of reality can only be constructed from the tools, skills, and materials at hand, the facts as we currently understand them, and the beliefs they support. This is the continuum we live on. It's always changing. We need vets and knowledge to help for our success in the horse. So if I take this paradigm here and look at the tools, skills, and materials at hand, John had higher skills than I had. He had more materials at hand. He had all this bar stock where he could create stuff. And he had that with him. The facts as we currently understand them, he and I both saw the same radiographs on this horse. We knew laminitis was there, but we had this resection to deal with. Now, I can see the radiograph as a fact that, excuse me, that's a picture we're looking at. When I saw the picture, I just saw the gas pocket panic, right? He saw it, but he also saw, hey, below the coronary band, there's a space where this doesn't go all the way up. I can put some screws in there. So the facts he saw were different than the facts I saw based on his experience and the beliefs they support. He knew he could think outside the box. He knew it, he didn't have to see it in a book before he could make it happen. And he put all this together. So we were at two different places on this continuum, but we're all on this continuum, and it's always going to change based on these three things. We need vets. They help us. They're the part that helps us figure all this out. They give us more information, and we need to incorporate their knowledge in the needs of the horse. So, why do we do this? Why do we look at it this way? We need to keep an eye on what's valuable. The health and welfare of the horse. Facts are going to change with information from the vet. Then our beliefs about what can be accomplished is going to be changed with new knowledge. This is where evidence-based practice comes in. Then we use our tools, skills, and materials to apply our shoeing plan. One of the things that defines a professional is being able to rethink and update prior beliefs. And that's what we need to do as professionals. When we're presented with new information, we need to see how that incorporates in our current belief system and how we can apply it to the horse and update. I was talking earlier about how we respond to ideas, and we need to think of new information that's presented to us as an idea out here in the air. And then you kind of throw your idea up into the new information and see how all that works together. And then you bring it back, and then you can incorporate it into your base knowledge and move along from there and grow from there. And then keep adding. And then if something comes in and conflicts with what you know, you need to understand or figure out why, and maybe what you know was wrong, or maybe this was wrong. But you can make those decisions when it's out here and just part of a thought experiment to figure out how to shoe horses better. Always keeping in mind the most important part of this process is the horse. That's our value. As long as our values are constants, our beliefs and opinions can change. This is how we learn to excel and become professional farriers. So how do I take this revelation and make it productive? I need a tactical retreat. I need to update my professional development and my primary skills. These are the associations I currently belong to. Now, there's a lot of associations out there, a lot of different state associations. There's all kinds. These are just the ones I currently belong to. It's not a comprehensive list. So obviously we're here at the American Farrier Association. What do they bring to the table? Testing the big thing. Foraging competition out there. These lectures here, they bring a lot to the table in filling out our primary skills and our professional development. We have the chapter associations like Western States Farriers. That's where I got started. That's where we get a lot of our information, is our local chapters that help us out. There's World Championship Blacksmiths. Well, you want to get your foraging squared away under a pressure situation. That really does it consistently over the year with all their competitions. It will really strengthen your mind in how to get through this stuff. And then, you go out to a client and you need to perform with clients or vets there, nothing to it after you've been to that association. That's one of the associations, well, most of these, you can get out of it whatever you put in. You work hard, these associations will give back that much and help you out. The AWCF also has clinics and seminars out there. We all learn in different ways. Sometimes it's hands-on, sometimes it's thinking. We need to have all these ways for us to get information into our head. The NAEP, National Association of Equine Practitioners. Full disclosure, I'm on the board, so I'm probably going to promote them a little bit. We just had our symposium, and the NAEP is one of the only AEPs, which is Association of Equine Practitioners, there's a lot of them in the country, that formally recognizes farriers as equine professionals. So that's important. That it starts to help bridge this farrier veterinary gap. And when we have our symposium, we have a internal medicine track, but we also have a layman's track and a podiatry track. So everybody's learning, vets and farriers together. We have the Farriers Journal. It's our trade publication they put on the International Hook Fair Summit. Again, classroom type learning, lectures, information presented to your head a different way. There's, just like here, there's the restaurants and bars and talking afterwards, where a lot of the information is shared and comes together. The other one up here, the Hoof Search. That's email service I belong to. Farrier runs it. But she sends out every month a lot of research articles pertaining to what we do, whether it be movement, growth, gait, landing, loading, hoof morphology, whatever. But it's research that comes into your email box, and you can click on it. Some of it's behind a paywall, but you at least get an abstract, and others are open source, which means you can read the whole thing and start incorporating it into your work and your thought process and your development. So this is what I was kind of talking about earlier. There's a lot of research that's out there that we still talk about anecdotally between each other, but some of these questions have been answered. We need to be aware of that. This is what's going to move our business, raise the level of our business, and make everybody better. Going back to the NAEP, we talked earlier about how much knowledge does a vet really have? A couple hours, is it a week, whatever it is. I'm sure it's different for every school. But what we're doing when we say that is we're boxing that vet in to the knowledge they acquired in school. Now, if we're going to do that, we need to do it to ourselves as well. Should we be defined as only the knowledge we got when we were in school? I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to either side. So when you go to this place like the NAP, you're sitting next to vets that are learning just like you are. And they also, vets in equine practice, go out and they get more knowledge, they learn more stuff. Sometimes it conflicts with ours, but that's okay. That's when you start to have productive, honest discussions about whatever it is you're talking about. And each party is going to be a little bit better for it on the other side. So just remember that. Advanced primary skills. So all these associations are going to get us into all these different areas to help our primary skills. They're going to increase the evaluation, the trim, the building of shoes, the nailing and finishing. All those are going to go up. And then we're going to start realizing, like I said before, the true depth of what we can learn in all of these things. We'll go to clinics, lectures, hands-on clinics, anatomy study, gait study, Farrier to Farrier, you're going to learn stuff. But you're always getting different people's opinions and seeing how it assimilates with your own. I have anatomy up here. Funny story, just thought of. I do a lot of dissections and anatomy classes myself, and I like to teach it. And then sometimes I just get legs and bring them over and invite some friends over. And my friend Jason and I were at my shop cutting up some legs, and we'd invited somebody over, and he was there with us, and we just, music's up, knives are out, beer's going, and we're just going over legs. We got textbooks open up trying to figure out what all this stuff is. And the guy that was there with us looked up and like, you guys do this for fun? I'm like, yeah, we do it all the time. Why? What's the problem? But you got to have that kind of energy. Go after this stuff. So we've got a lot in more primary skill learning about gait. We've got a lot of motion sensors now. We have Echo Gait. We have Workman has a product to start learning about how gait works. So now when I'm in that evaluation part of my primary skills, I'm going to have a horse walk. But you know what? I might have it go on a circle too. And then I might have it circle the other way. And then I might even put it on hard ground and soft ground. That's because I'm learning more. That jar is getting deeper. That part of it is getting a lot deeper. And by the way, there's no stray horses. Only confirmation we can't see yet. I made a mistake early in my career when I would go out to clients, new clients, and I'd see the horse and I'd do a little mental evaluation, and I would shoe the horse. And then maybe after a couple of cycles, I'm thinking it's looking good. And I'll come to the client and they'll say, oh yeah, my neighbor came over and said, my horse is pigeon-toed. Is it pigeon-toed? And I said, well yeah, I always have that. Like, no it hasn't. It's never been pigeon-toed. They didn't know it. They didn't know how to see that. And it's the same with us, with confirmation. As we learn more and more and more, we're going to see more and more. And at this point in my career, I can assure you there's no straight horses. None of them. So don't try and find straight, don't look for straight, look for the deviations. Find perfection in the flaws. That's what we're looking for, is how to make this work. So, by staying current with best practices for all equine health, I'm going to be updating my prior beliefs about shoeing plans, which will change with convincing information is. This is what an evidence-based practice is. But my value of doing what's best for the horse isn't going to change. Values will always triumph over trends, ideologies, and groupthink. Always keep your value on the horse. So, along those lines, should horses land flat? Anybody? No? And I don't want you to answer it. I don't want you to answer it. What I want you to do is go here. This is scholar.google.com. This is a search engine that only returns research. And research from humans, psychological, animal, whatever. And this is a screenshot. I did a search on equine flat landing. All these papers came out that have to do with that. You can read it and see. So this is a little project for you guys. Go out there, look at this, and see what you think. Maybe we can talk about it the next couple of days. But you can put anything in here. You can put loading in here. You can put confirmation stuff in here. You can put anything you can think about with the horse. Do a search here, and you're going to find research papers, and you're going to find out what current evidence is out there, what's actually out there. And then we can start talking about it. And then we can start elevating from there, rather than anecdotal information that's been passed down for years and years and years and years and never updated. We need to start updating. So through this search and through your journey, going to these different clinics and getting information, listening to different speakers. I mean, I've been at the summit and heard 4 different talks on the same topic with 4 different types of information. It happens. Everybody's coming at this from a different place. But what you got to remember is all the information we get gets us to a starting point on how we're going to trim a horse. And we get to that starting point, and what we're really doing is we trim the foot, and we put on a shoe, and we're asking a question of that foot. We're asking that foot a question. Here, what do you think of this? And then it's up to us in 6 weeks to come back and see what the answer is. And we need to be able to look at the hoof, see how it's changed, look at the wear, and see what's going on with the shoe, and then say, oh, that's your answer? Okay, well, how about this? Throw them another question. And it's that back and forth that we do with the hoof until it finally comes back and that hoof says, yeah, I like that. And you know what? That's the trim. That's the shoe for that foot. Now you might look back 3 or 4 cycles and say, that's nothing like I started. But that's the horse telling you, this is what I like. So start thinking about shoeing in that way. It's not, oh, this is what the book says, I put this on and you respond this way. That's not how it works. It's different. We're asking a question, we need to have a conversation with the foot. So that's one way that might help you frame all this information that's going to be contradictory in your mind. But there's a lot of information out there that seems contradictory because there's a lot of different ways to successfully shoe a horse. So, on the modern materials chart. This is what I thought about when I first was coming up with this talk. And this is what was going on my head, is all these products. I've been in the business longer than a lot of you. So there's a lot of products that are new, just since I've been in the business. So here's a lot of them here, just a sample. The top left shoe, a Sigafu shoe, indirect glue-on or Soundboard's technology shoe. I use this a lot myself in my practice because I'm transitioning off the track thoroughbreds into sport horse work. And for me, this shoe, you know, I get these feet and they're kind of chipped, thin walled, thin soled, and I found the shortest time to the highest quality foot I can get is taking everything off I can, all the bad stuff. Not worrying about trying to nail something and perforating that wall again that says tear here. I just take it all off, treat it, put on this cuff shoe, and then let everything grow down. And usually after 3 or 4 cycles, I got a decent hoof because I haven't been putting nails in it. They haven't been losing it. These rarely come off. And I get good hoof wall. But that's how modern materials can help our practice. I can see when that's needed, and I use it. There's 3D hoof pads are new. There's all different types of glue-ons and synthetic materials. There's the clog shoe. Clog shoe's been around a while, but that's going from just all wood to wooden and composite, or just composites. And then the application now with casting tape, a lot easier. I mean, I remember when they were coming out, we were using a lot of screws. Some still do. But with the casting tape, it's a simple process. It's easy on and off. If you need to change it, you know, lame horses are going to be getting this shoe. So anytime we don't pound on a lame horse, they like that. They don't like to be pounded on. We got support materials in here. Something that's I've seen change over the years is learning about the static and dynamic support. You know, we're using heart bars. That's a static support, which changes over time. But now we have dynamic support where we can use support materials, and we can move it around the foot to shift load around the foot. That helps us a lot. We got acrylics, we got new treatments. There's a picture of a crack up there. You know, when I started, the best treatment for a crack was a hot iron, putting a hole in it. But now, with research, new materials, changes in treatment, we've learned that treating a crack from the inside out rather than the outside in reduces the recidivism rate. Along with what we're learning in biomechanics and how to change a trim, we can get through these things a lot better with acrylics. So we have all these things, and I talked about information parity earlier. You know, consumers know about this, vets, owners. So we need to be well versed in how these things are. We can't ignore this. It has to be out there because we're going to be asked the questions. And if we're going to be a professional, we need to logically answer these questions to customers. So we need to know about them. We need to know their use. We need to know when they're applicable. We need to be able to apply them, or we need to know somebody that can apply them. Because once we have the knowledge of a modern material that might be better over anything we can do steel, What's our value? Of course. We need to make that happen. We need to make the modern material happen, whether we know how to do it or whether we can refer out for somebody else to do it. So we've gone over the primary skill set, professional development, how to access all this information, veterinary knowledge, how we can access information from the vet so we can do our job better, and modern materials. So how do we make this a business? What we've gone over has given us competent confidence. We know how to do our job now. But a bill or two is going to show up, and we're going to have to pay somebody. So we're going to have to make it a proper business. And I get it. I just want to, shoe and go in the shop and build shoes and dissect legs and do that. But we do want to make a profit here, right? We want to keep doing this. So, who here has an accountant? Anybody have an accountant? Good. We need to double that. I'm very pro-accountant. Accountants, a good accountant is an expert in their field, just like we're an expert in ours. They go out and they learn the laws and how to do their business. They have the technical skills, how to input numbers and make things work. So they have skills like we do. We have similar knowledge sets there. And then we take those knowledge sets and apply it to something. We apply it to a horse. Horses are all different. Businesses are all different. States are all different. We need to hire professional experts to take care of our business and make it work right for us. Those relationships are great. I've had an accountant for my whole career. And when I first started with him, we met for at least the first 18 months, 2 years. Every 3 months, he told me how to set up my books and to give him the stuff he needed to succeed. And I did. And I would give him the paperwork every 3 months, and then a week later I would meet with him. And I learned about profit and loss and bottom line and running the business. And I learned a lot from him. And then after a while, I didn't need to see him. I knew how it ran, but he's always on the phone, or I can always call him if I'm doing some change in the business or I have a question. He can help me with that. And at one point I went in, and after a few years in, he says, "You need to be a corporation." And I said, "Okay, set it up." Why? I don't know. I'm not the accountant. I don't know what implicitly makes it better for me to be the corporation now, but he does. I don't need to spend the time, I pay him. I don't need to spend the time to figure that out. I'm going to go out and shoot horses. So, accountant, I believe, will make you money over time. Think of the time we spend shoeing horses, and laws update all the time. I remember one time going in and asking him, "Hey, I hear this new law's coming in the state of California, might affect me." He just calmly said, "So it's in one of those books, it doesn't exist." So look at all that time I was spending fretting about something that might come in and how it impact. Get an accountant that will really give you a lot of peace of mind and make you money. And business management just isn't our financial responsibility. Do you have a 3, 5, 8-year business plan? You gotta see where you want to be in terms of education, in terms of foraging, competition, practice, teaching. Where are you going to go in the business? Figure out what you want to do, and then make a client profile. I think that's missing a lot of this business. People not building a client profile. You can't do it right away. You need to be in the business for a while. It takes context before you get perspective. So after about 4 or 5 years in the business, I was thinking, okay, I'm running all over the place. I don't know how to keep all this reined in. People are calling, I'm just saying yes, doing everything I can. But you need to figure out where you want to be in the business. And it's going to be different for everybody. For me, I thought, I want to practice that can be closed, that has clients that are regular, a regular schedule. That's important to me. And if I do that, I'm going to know them for a long time. So I thought, I'm going to build my business based on the people I like to be around. I didn't pick it for discipline. I didn't pick it for breed. I picked it for people I like to be around that conform to what I wanted, a repetitive practice over and over again. And then think about it, if you have clients that you get a relationship with and you build up trust over time, horses are all going to get lame at some point. That's going to have to come in. Now we have to deal with the lameness. It's going to go a lot smoother if you've already built this relationship with the person. and you can figure that out and get through those problems and issues. So I suggest everybody come up with that. You know, it can be it can be a discipline, it can be a breed, it can be whatever, but do it and make it your own and take control of your business. Don't just do everything that comes along. Figure out where you want to be along the way and then execute. And this doesn't all happen at once, but none of this is going to happen without planning. You have to plan. And the last thing I want to talk about in business is bad horses. And it's kind of weird. Well, you know, nobody wants to do bad horses, but I think you still have to do some, because until you get enough horsemanship, you're not going to know when you're in trouble. You don't know what a bad horse is. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us have seen people that didn't have good horsemanship skills that look like they're about to get their head kicked off and they had no clue. So you have to raise your game to some point where you know what bad horses are and you know how to see trouble coming and get out and be safe. You have to have that skill set. But then get away from them, because we don't need to do them. We don't need to get hurt. Think about people that are asking us this. They ask us, to do this horse without thinking about, how we could get hurt, our mortgages, our family, all this stuff. Why are they asking that of us? Because they don't see us as a professional. Would they ask other professionals to risk their lives on something? I mean, this goes down to something as common as, hey, would you like a beer while you're working? We've all been asked that, I'm sure. And I usually laugh it off and say, yeah, if you see me drink a beer, you really don't want me underneath your horse while this is going on. But it's not the fact that I can brush that off and I'm fine with it. It's the fact that they asked us in the first place. Why did they ask us in the first place? They shouldn't, because they don't see us as professionals. We need to step up our game so that question is not even asked. And it's the same with working on difficult horses. We need to not do them. We're farriers, we spend a lot of time, we're here getting a lot of education, learning how to do our job really well. We can't do it with bad horses. If we're struggling to get around the horse, we're not going to do a good job. That's our card, that's our business card. And you think the owner is going to let people know when they see that crappy shoe job, oh yeah, Tim Shannon did that. Are they going to tell him, it was a muddy place and he was trying to kick his head off all along? They're not going to say that. So we need to manage our brand. That goes to managing our brand. So help the new farriers out, send the tough ones to a trainer. Professional communication. This is the last one. This is what ties everything together. And I was a little stalled on this. I'd written a lot of this up and I got to this part and I'm like, how do I do this part? And so of course I talked to a friend and I said, yeah, he asked me how I'm doing with the project. And I said, yeah, I'm stuck here. He goes, are you having trouble communicating about communicating? I'm like, yeah, I am. That's not a fact. But that's it. And I told him then, that's it. That's my open. That's my open right there. Because that's it. It's the first step in communication. I was stalled. And we all struggle with this. There's a Stoic quote that loosely translated says the obstacle is the way. And we know that, and that really is important in communication because we have these conversations we need to have with either vets or owners or other farriers that we do everything to avoid, do something different when we know we need to just walk up to that person and say, hey, I need to talk to you about this. This is what we need to talk about. This is what my opinion is on this, and stand by your opinion. We don't do that. What we end up doing is either we don't talk or remove ourselves from the conversation, or what's the best, go on social media and complain about it. Does that help? That doesn't help us as professionals. Don't think owners aren't going to be Googling you or checking you on social media to see what you're talking about. That's not professional. How many professional people do you see on Facebook doing that? They don't, or on social media. So what we need to do is keep closing these communication loops to keep this from happening. And what I mean by communication loops is a simple explanation would be like you go to a client and their horse got sore, vet came in and prescribed a shoe, they hand you the paper, you think, well, I don't agree with this. I can't make this happen. So you have options there. Do you just grumble and curse the vet for his 2 years of experience in school and having you do this? You can complain to the owner. do you try to make it happen with poor success? Because you know, based on this foot and what your history of knowledge of this foot, what they prescribe does not match at this point. Or do you close the loop? You pick up the phone, call the vet, hey, I got your prescription here. Here's a little more history on the foot. I see what you want to do with the shoe. You know, I might not be able to make it this time, but I can use this different modification that will stay on the foot, because, you know, if it doesn't stay on the foot, it doesn't matter what it is. It's going to be in the pasture anyway. And then we can work towards your goals. You got to close the loop. If you don't close that loop, others are going to define you. Your client's going to think, well, he just bitches about the vet. Who do I believe now? You put on something poorly that you knew was going to be poorly, and the vet comes out and sees it. They don't know why it didn't get applied right. They just know that looks crappy. So you left that open for other people to define you. Don't let other people define you. We need to define our own brands. Used to tell, well, I still tell farriers when they're starting out, you're going to get a reputation. It's either going to be bad or good. Don't think you're not going to get a reputation. It's either going to be good or bad. Don't let other people define that reputation. Don't let others define your brand. So in communication, I see three groups we're normally dealing with: farriers, vets, and owners and clients. And they're going to be in peer communication or professional. You know, your friends, your farrier friends, or there's vets I work with commonly. You know, if they have a prescription, they just email it over with radiographs and say, do what you do. But then there's other vets where I'm going to have to make that phone call, like I talked about earlier, and have a conversation. So you need to realize what relationship you're in with these different clients, and set expectations. That was the point of that other phone call. Was setting expectations with the vet and the owner on what you can do based on that prescription and where you can go. The biggest problems I've seen is where expectations in any communication group are not the same. If they're the same, people can always work together, but you got to make sure they're the same. And if nobody's setting it, it's up to you to voice it and make it happen. Because think about it, we're the ones that see the horse all the time when they're good. Vets only come out when they're lame. They don't know the full picture. We got to make sure they know the full picture. So at NAEP this year, just a little something to help. We had a professional communicator out on business communication, and our board got to have a 2-hour session with him and do some exercises. And what he did is he held up a picture and he said, draw what you see. We had 5 minutes to draw what we saw. And everybody drew, made their list. And he came back and asked, so what did you see? And he asked, there's one person, and it was, very critical. It was the walls of this room are this color. The drape is this color. It looks like there's wind because the drape is blowing through a window. I see green trees in the distance. I see a blue lake to the left. Just very definite, critical information. They asked me, and I had similar things. I had, there was a breeze and there was a meadow and I saw a pond, and I didn't put the color in there. But I also said peace and balance, because it looked very peaceful to me. And it reminded me I needed balance in my life. So I saw different things in that picture. And there was another guy who said, what did you see? And mind you, we're at a fairgrounds, we're out on some picnic tables doing this outside. And he said, I see a big lawn, I see grandstands, I see a food shack, I see picnic tables. There's a man in the foreground holding a picture. This is what's on the picture. That guy saw a huge view, right? He saw everything, very macro. So the lesson here is, part of it's pretty obvious. We all see things differently. But the other part of this is by listening to everybody in that group. Remember, this was a group exercise with the board. We started learning how other people see information. Not just, yes, they see it differently. We know how they see it differently. And that leads to this communication thing where now I can present that guy that saw the whole thing. He's a vet. If I'm working with him, I'm telling him, the last 3 sets of shoes I put on this horse, the ground it works on, what type of steel I use. I'm telling him everything, because that's what he needs to process. He needs a big macro picture. Other people just need small details. But that's what helps in communication. Not just sending information expecting people to understand it, but knowing how people process and sending information in a way that they understand. So this can go on and on. I mean, professional communication is a very deep field, but it's something I think we lack, and we need to look at a little more to help us be professionals. So, just to top this off, don't run away from difficult conversations. Manage the expectations of the group, and speak confidently and professionally. So how would that modern professional encounter go now? Tim's horseshoeing. This is Tim. Hey, how much do you charge for a horse? Well, tell me about your horse. What do you have going on? Well, I have this quarter horse out in the pasture, hasn't been shod in a while, and I got grandkids coming over, and we'd like to ride it this weekend. Professional communication, feeling it out. Well, where are you located? Gives me an address. So now it's in my working area, and I work on these type of horses, so it's filling out my customer profile. Okay, well I can come out next Wednesday and take a look and see if this is something I can work on. And he said, well, I'd really like to come out this weekend. He goes, well, and I'll tell him, well, I have a pretty defined practice, and I have clients that trust me, and I've already have an appointment scheduled, and this is as soon as I can get there. But I'll tell you what, if I bring you into the practice, then I'm going to give you the same respect I give them at this time. He goes, what do you mean bring me into the practice? I go, well, we got to see if it's a match. If my skill set can help you out, and this could be productive for the both of us, we'll go ahead and set this up. So, what's your address? I'll come on out and see what I can do. Get the address, head out there next Wednesday, drive up, checking out the yard. This looks like there's a safe place to work. Yeah, check. That's good. That's safety. That's professional. Get out. Don't open up the rig. We haven't decided if we're going to do this horse yet. Meet the person. He says horse is out in the pasture. I said, why don't you go and get the horse for me? Clinic I was at many, many years ago was Lee Green, and was on efficiency about horses. And okay, good. Not good with these. Lee Green. Was at an efficiency clinic, and he was telling us you'd be amazed at what you can learn by having somebody go get their own horse. You see how the horse reacts to them. You see how they react to the horse. They go in, is the horse just jumping up in the air and running to the back, or is the horse coming up and nuzzling them? Does the head just drop into the halter? When they bring him back, is this horse in his back pocket, or is it on a shank up in the air like a helium balloon? These are things I'm looking at. If it's coming in on a shank, odds are going down that I'm going to finish this. We might not even set something up. This might be something for another horseshoe, but not me. So bring it in, look at the horse. Ooh, there we go. Look at the horse and evaluate it. It is, there's no shoes on it. It's long, and he says he'd like pads. So I go, yeah, let me take a look. Run some hoof tests. His foot's a little sore, but it's also a little flat. So I point this out to him, and I say, yeah, I can get this horse shod. I can get some pads on for you. But given its confirmation, and you got grandkids coming out, and he'd explained that they're going to start coming out more often, learn to ride. I said, you want some time on this horse? You probably ought to have a vet come out, and they can give me some more information, so I can do a better job for you, and we can help your horse out. And just have the vet get a hold of me after they check the horse, and the vet and I'll have a conversation when I come out next time. We'll see what we can do to help your horse out. So he's like, nobody's ever told me that before. I go, yeah, well, we're trying to do our best for Dobbin over here. So that's what we're going to do. So I get it done, set it up, make a new appointment. I tell him the bill, he doesn't even question it, just hands it over. So all these things, I'm looking at all these jars, I'm pulling from these different jars, whether I put the pads on, it's got modern materials under there, putting impression materials, kind of a flat foot. Communication with him, explaining what I'm doing, veterinary knowledge coming in, all these things change from the first encounter when I was a new farrier years and years ago to what I do now as a modern professional farrier. All right. Okay. Okay, so here's Here's our jars. We start with a minimal to functional to comprehensive amount. We have our primary skill set. We've learned it's a lot deeper than we thought it was. And that's the evaluation, trimming, building shoes, nailing safely, finishing. Professional development, where we get all this knowledge, where we can access it and fill these jars a little more. We got veterinary knowledge. We're learning there was a vet here, yesterday giving us knowledge from the vet side, learning more about diagnostics. We need to learn that stuff. We're learning that now, so we know what we can get from the vet that will help us do our job better. We have modern materials, anything other than steel. All these things out there that, everything has its limitations. We need to know what they are. And if there's alternatives that will be better for the horse, our value, then we need to either know how to apply it or know how to get somebody in to apply it and help us out. Business development, how to make a profit, how to do this, how to get ready for retirement, how to take care of your business, and give you peace of mind on the monetary side, and have a 3, 5, and 8 year plan. Know where you're going. I see a lot of farriers are just answering calls, running around, bumping into everything with no cohesive plan. Not professional. And professional communication. We're talking all the time. We need to present ourselves. We need to create our brand. We need to stick to our brand based on our business plan. So all these things are going to allow us to present and be perceived as professionals. Remember, values are constant. Beliefs and opinions are going to change with new information or new skill set. We need to update our priors. Don't let someone else define what a farrier is. Take charge and close the communication loops. We decide what's expected from us, and we define our purpose. So we made it to the top. We get to the top, we turn around, we look down and see how far we've come. But when we turn around, we see a plateau. We see farriers moving around at all these different peaks, passing each other on the plateau and exchanging information as they go. Exchanging what they've learned. This is where the modern professional lives. On the plateau, not knowing everything, but continuing to learn and helping others along the way, all for the benefit of the horse. So where are you climbing up the mountain? Are your jars filled? Do you know what needs to be in them? Do you have a comprehensive amount of knowledge in each one of them? Then you need to reach out and help your other farriers and help them along and help them to fill out their jars. Art is using skills to produce a work. We've been described as having an art and science, and we use our skills, our primary skills, and we produce a work along with the science information, and we create something. Music is also an art and a science. Think about it, piano players got to know how to use the keys and the pedals to create music. But then there's science. They know about music. We all know when a bad note is played in a song, but musicians know why a bad note is played in a song. So to quote Beethoven, don't only practice your art, but force your way into its secrets. Art deserves that. For it and knowledge can raise men to the divine. This is a worthy endeavor, being responsible for the care of a horse. Now show the industry what it means to be a modern professional farrier and what we can do.